We've got Tracy in Barking and Dagenham that says this, quote, wow, this is really heavy. Tracy in Barking says this, quote, having had 2 sons stabbed, I lost my nephew who was only 31 on New Year's Eve, stabbed to death. Wow, this is hard to read, Tracy. Knife crime needs intelligence addressing and knife detecting equipment for all police to carry. Better funding for police. Tracy goes on to say, do you intend to do this as my nephew is in the chapel of rest now? This could have been avoided if police did better security checks on people and put orders on them to keep apart when police are called. Our family is devastated with this tragedy, unquote. And I just must say, Tracy, I have to say I'm so sorry that this happened for you. It's really even just hard actually to read this out. 2 sons stabbed and lost your nephew on New Year's Eve. I mean, this is very hard to hear, Tracy. And it shows how much you know it's important that we start to look more seriously about how we police our communities. And she's calling out for better ways to search for people if they're holding knives. She's searching out for better ways for us to police our communities. And I was speaking with a man named Dean Okai, and I spoke to him after I spoke at Homerton back in November and December when we were allowed to go to community events. And Dean came up to me afterwards and he said, Brian, I spoke with senior members of the police, and he said even they have said we can't police our way out of knife crime. And I also said when I was on stage, I said this, and maybe this will mean something to you, Tracy. I said, when teenagers are stabbing teenagers, it's not their fault, it's our fault. Because we've failed as members of our community. We failed to get the right policing. And the problem is very complex, but it means a few things. First of all, we need more police on the ground. Second of all, we need to enable police to make sure that knives are not part of our community, which means we need zero tolerance policy for anyone carrying a knife. But we also need more options for our children in our communities, which means we have to reopen our community centers. Under the current mayor, he has closed down community centers. He's shut them down. He shut down their budgets. We've got to find new ways of investing in our community centers, which is why I know that corporate investment in our community centers will mean our younger children have other options. It also means that we can use those funds to give them other things that they can do. We can also better fund our police, which means they can have more police officers on the street and they can better search for these things. Again, this is at nightmare proportions. The current mayor of London just had his 100th teenager murdered on his watch. Every year the current mayor has been in office, we've seen night crime rise and rise and rise and rise. And Tracy is one of the many citizens that is suffering from this, and it is unacceptable. And I promise that we will find solutions, and that means more police on the ground. That means empowering the police with more technology and more ways to police the community. That means empowering our communities with more and better funded community centers. And Tracy, it means making sure this no longer happens. London, you know, it really leads the world when it comes to these horrendous knife crime statistics, and we've got to take ownership of it, and we need a change of leadership, or we're going to have 3 more years of the current mayor and his shocking statistics. So Tracy, I probably speak for all of us. We're sending out all of our energy and all of our condolences to you, and all I can say is, as your next mayor of London, I'm going to solve these problems, and I'm going to stop giving you excuses, and I'm going to stop blaming other people, which is all our current mayor does. So thank you for your comments, and we're sending out your support as well.